Thank you. As I said earlier, my name is C.P. Maloney, and I am a very, very proud volunteer with Honor Flight Rochester. We're all volunteers. We have about 300 of us who work our missions going out, coming back in. We also do events so that we can get the word out. Yes, we raise donations at those events, like car shows, etc. I mean, we've done all sorts of them at the VFWs, at the legacies, any place we can get the word out that we are looking for World War II and Korean War veterans and veterans of any conflict that the United States has gone through, okay? We're taking any terminally ill veteran from any conflict, they go to the top of the list. Our priority right now is World War II veterans. And the reason is because those World War II veterans, their average age is around 94, and sad to say, about 1,300 to 1,500 go on to their final post every single day. So they get the top priority. The next, which we started last fall, is taking applications for the Korean War veterans. Now, General Rappel is number one, but we're pushing him down the list because he's too young to go on that first mission. We have over 300 applications from the Korean War veterans. If you're a Korean War veteran, it's a first come, first served basis. Please get those applications in, because when you sign up today, it's at least a year before we can get you onto a mission. And we want to get you onto a mission. As you know, the veteran does not pay. He cannot pay because our veterans have paid their price that the government asked them to pay. Today, we're very fortunate in that we've taken over 1,492 veterans from the Rochester area. Not all of those are World War II. We've taken some of the Vietnam veterans. One of them just came back a couple of weeks ago who was terminally ill. Sad to say, I'm not sure if the warrant officer is still with us today, but he was terminally ill and he couldn't believe what an honor flight was to him. We've taken Korean War veterans who had illnesses, or we needed to get them on a bus because they filled a certain medical situation for us on the buses down in Baltimore. But normally it's a World War II guy, the Korean War, then the Vietnam guys. Now we have a number of who have signed up from Vietnam. We will take Vietnam guys as soon as we can get to you. As I said, 1,492 people we've already taken down there. Some of those World War II veterans are with us. Henry sits back there. There's Alice. I have Rose here. Just raise your hands. How many World War II veterans do we have in the group? Okay, great. Great, great to see. How about Korean War veterans? One. Oh, a double, look at this. 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Great, I love to see these hands. How about Vietnam veterans? Look at that, we have a lot of Vietnam guys. We're going to get to you, believe me. Veterans of any other conflict. Where did you serve, ma'am?
I served, well, it's a group, just a very small, the Grenada conflict.
Grenada? Okay, you're still a veteran. Did you put the uniform on?
Yes, I did.
You put the uniform on. You served in a conflict of the United States. You're qualified to go on an honor flight. And all we are doing on an honor flight is saying to the men and women who have put the uniform on for our country, thank you very, very much. You are saying it, I'm saying it, our community is saying it. When they come home to the Rochester airport and there's 400, 450 people waiting for them to come off of that plane to just say, thank you for your service, welcome home. That's all we're doing. The money that is raised to do these missions is from the hearts of our community, and we go from all over the place where these people just say, hey, I want to help get a guy on board or a woman on board so that I can be able to go to the airport and say, thank you very much for your service and doing an honor flight for us. Rochester, New York is the only hub of over 120 of them in the country. We're the only hub that is east of the Mississippi that stays overnight. We stay overnight in Baltimore at the Hyatt. Now the reason we stay overnight is two reasons. The average age of a World War II veteran today is about 94, 95 years old. They get tired. Believe it or not, they have to be at the airport at 0400 hours on Saturday morning. That means they're getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning or 2:30 in the morning to be at the airport. The people who are in the yellow shirts, which you see back there with Jean Kelly and her mom, those guardians, those ground crew people, they'll be at the airport at 03:15 to set up so that we can welcome our veterans, okay? They'll help you get through security. They'll help you with your breakfast. They'll do everything for you while you're on the ground. In the air, a guardian is assigned to each veteran. They have to have a guardian because the guardian is the one who's going to make sure he gets on the bus all right, make sure his pills are taken, make sure he's fed, make sure he's watered, everything, which we'll cover here in the movie very quickly. He's also in charge of the wheelchair because we take a wheelchair for each and every veteran regardless. And I say regardless if he doesn't use it, if she doesn't use it, it's a great place to put the water bottles on and run around all the monuments in case they need water. Okay? What I'd like to do right now is to just show you this short DVD. It's Mission 14. This was done in October of 2010 of the Battle of the Bulge survivors. Correction, veterans of the Battle of the Bulge. There was around 24 of them on board. He was on board this one also. You'll see his picture in here. You'll see Mary's picture in here. And I think that's it of all the heroes who were on this mission. Sad to say, a year after they did this DVD, which by the way has won every kind of award that you can do for a public service announcement. I mean, Emmys, you name it, Oscars, this guy has won it for this DVD on Honor Flight. But very quickly, 1 year after this was filmed, I did a presentation at the Greece Rotary. And I'm sad to say, but I pointed out that in 1 year's time, from the date of this mission until the date I did that presentation, 5 of these men had passed on to their final post. Now what's interesting about that, it tells us one thing. It's an urgency thing for these World War II men and women. So please, get them signed up. You'll see the sun. And the son, all of a sudden, when I looked out, was against the side wall. My God, I just said something about his father who passed away. So after the thing was over, I went up and I said, by the way, so-and-so, would you like to say anything about Honor Flight? He got up there, honest. I could not say another thing about Honor Flight. His father, it meant so much to the father who was reluctant to go. He didn't want to go, didn't think I deserved it. Whatever the reason, don't take no for an answer. Sign them up because those kids or us, we'll get them on board a mission. Okay, why don't we do Mission 14, which was October of 2010.
This is a duty trip. This is what makes America good and what makes America right and what makes America just. This is the generation that literally saved the world.
About 3 or 3.5 years ago, I saw in the USA Today newspaper a little article that talked about something called Honor Flight, a program that took veterans to Washington free of charge to see the memorial. Had a phone number or an email address, which I put my name in.
Friends told me about it. Harry Clancy, who was on the Honor Flight, he told me I should come. He said, it's fantastic, you gotta go. You gotta go. You have no idea what they do for you.
They were right. It was incredible.
It's really a part of history. It's a culmination to their service time in the Army, Navy, Air Corps. I would encourage anyone to take part. so that they can kind of finish their career serving the United States services.
This is the payback that we owe them for saving the world and keeping us in a free nation. We would not be free had they not done what they had done.
I lived in the town of Eindhoven, southern part of Holland. We went through the war. We saw the Germans come in. They came in 50 miles an hour. It's unbelievable. They took over everything.
I was in the 730th Field Artillery Battalion, the 75th Division.
Well, I was a movie cameraman for the Special Forces for 9 months. As an enlistment, I started as a private, and when our lieutenant was injured and left, they had to promote me.
I was in 740th AAA and aircraft.
And so the war years were some hard years, especially the latter part, when there was hardly any food to be gotten.
The biggest thing that I remember, that it was cold and there was a lot of snow.
It was so cold that when the trucks came with ammunition, I used to run under the truck and grab the muffler to keep warm. It was so cold.
When we came by Arlington Cemetery, to see those thousands and thousands of crosses over the hill, down the hill, it just made me think back to all those guys that liberated me for my freedom.
Well, naturally, we got home and life just picked up. The next day, I was a civilian. That was it.
Then you get out of service and you got to get yourself back into another world. That's just a little part of history, and there was more important things to talk about.
You have to remember, the United States of America sent 16 million men and women into that war in combat. And I'm not talking about the home front. 16 million people served in that war. What you see in those pictures in Times Square is not even a drop in the bucket.
This is the Silver Star for gallantry in action, and then the Purple Heart for wounds received in action.
If only 0.1% experienced what you see in those pictures, do the math. What percentage didn't get to have anything?
I personally thought we were forgotten.
I couldn't believe how receptive they were. As soon as you pull up to the curb, they put you in a wheelchair, and from then on, they got us through security, and they had a nice breakfast, and they got us on the plane without any rustle or tussle, and then when we got to Baltimore, why, the lines of people that would come over and shake your hand and thank you for your years of service. When I got home, I just thought I had been in another world, and I couldn't believe how nice everybody is.
The solemnity of being at Arlington and the ramrod straight, spit and polished soldiers there, the young soldiers scuffing their toes, which is their only way that they can acknowledge to the World War II veterans, that little of their toe, was incredible. I get a chill just thinking about that.
Of course, I remember the big two sides, Atlantic and Pacific, and then the States. And since I'm from Minnesota, I looked up Minnesota as well as New York. Then there's a lot of different sayings and things around the base there, like the time Eisenhower talking to the troops just before they went into Normandy.
It was a beautiful day there in Washington, the 30th of October. And so I would say that clearly the World War II Memorial was the outstanding memorial we visited.
Strange people would come over and shake your hand and thank you for years of service. And my son went with me and took a lot of pictures. And he was taking one picture, and a lady stepped over and she says, "Can I have my picture taken with him?" Well, you thought that maybe you were a celebrity.
I was shocked at the little kids that come over, and they were thanking us for fighting. And then at Washington, one boy, 16, on a bicycle, he had a cardboard homemade sign saying, "Thank you." And he's waving up and down the bus.
That is an unbelievable experience, especially not just the World War II one, but for instance, the Air Force Memorial, that you see these three big pillars ending up in the sky, almost in the clouds, thinking of all these airplanes that went up during the war.
And it was the feeling of being there as much as anything. And then, of course, we saw the Vietnam Wall here and the Korea, which I think is very unique and outstanding, those soldiers going across the field with their gear on and everything. And then, of course, getting over to see the Iwo Jima monument is the singular, most impressive one to me of everything in Washington.
What I consistently hear is, this is the cherry on top of the ice cream right here. They look forward to that, just that few minutes of coming home and saying, wow, this is the one thing that's missing from 65 years ago that we didn't have.
As they came down the stairs, we had other former Honor Flight veterans there welcoming us home. And it was like coming home from the service. And then all the people that were there, it was unbelievable how they waved, and of course family was there as well. We are back home from the war, so to speak.
That reception there was just, there's no words to describe it.
And then the big bands that were there welcoming us, different people, like the general that was there, gave a talk.
You know, and it was overwhelming. It really was overwhelming. That I found it terrific.
In fact, my wife was there, and she cried because she knew what I had gone through.
I thought that the Honor Flight did a marvelous job for the remaining soldiers.
I think we were all in awe of the whole thing.
If you really watch on one of these trips or really look closely, you see men that are in their mid-80s and 90 years old that suddenly become and act like they're 40 and 50 years old again.
We just kept commenting how wonderful it was, the trip itself.
You see the chin up a little bit higher, you see the smile, you see the shoulders that are straight. So you can see it in their eyes, and you can see it in their body language, and you can hear it in their voices exactly what this does.
That was awesome, all right, yeah.
I had a lump in my throat all during the whole trip. Unbelievable. I mean it.
It's really quite remarkable and quite therapeutic.
And I felt like king for a day. Everybody was so welcoming, and it was a great feeling.
We gotta hang in there together. God bless you.
Thank you. That really tells you what a mission is all about of an honor flight. Again, it's simply our way of saying thank you to the men and women who put that uniform on, the 16 million that he was talking about earlier, that we haven't had the chance to say thanks very much for helping us and doing what you've done for my generation and the generations that have gone beyond. The little bit of the DVD is wrong. Right now there's been over 100,000 veterans who have been taken down to Washington on honor flight nationwide. In the Rochester area, as I said earlier, we've taken 1,495 veterans down. The other thing is that you heard Ed mention about the little skip in the heel and toe. What they're doing at Arlington, we always try and get to where they inspect the guard, because that's where you can really watch it, where that ramrod straight guy comes down, and he's only doing it right now to the people of World War II. But he goes heel toe as he's marching until he comes up to the World War II veterans. And the only way he can salute is go skip, heel toe, skip, heel toe. It's quick, and if you watch him, it's the only time he can say, I salute you for what you've gone through. And this guy, as you can see, some of these guys got a rocker underneath their arms, so they're E5s, E6s. Yes, sir. No. Okay. I'm sorry, I thought, question. Real quick, I'll finish this off, and then who goes? How do we qualify people to go? I just said anyone who is a veteran can go, as long as they fall within the parameters of what Congress has decided to be the combat time period. For World War II, that goes until 46. Korean is 54. Vietnam is 73. And I'm not sure how they're qualifying the Iraq, Kuwait, et cetera. I'm not sure what the dates are on that. Or Bosnia and the other Grenada, et cetera. I'm not sure. You'll have to check a website, which would just be .gov, I'm sure, and then that way you'll be able to find out if you qualify, but I'm sure Grenada does, okay? Grenada does. We also have a triage team of nurses. Chrissy, who's in the back there, Chrissy, if you don't mind, is a new volunteer for us. She's also an operating nurse. She works out of Newark, correct? Is it Newark? Okay, and she's just getting ready to go back to work, but she's just joined us as one of our new volunteers. We're going to probably put her on a mission to go down to Washington as one of those nurses on board. What they do is, as a triage team, she'll work also with the triage team. They will call the veteran and ask questions about how is your medical status, et cetera, et cetera. What needs do you need to make sure we get you on this mission? Don't worry about the wheelchairs. Don't worry about the oxygen. We have all of that for you. Diabetics, don't worry. We can handle it. We will not give the injections because she's a nurse in New York State only. If they need an injection or something like that, they would have to have a family member who is qualified to give them the injection if they need it. Excuse me, I just lost the thought of the terminally ill. They usually will take down a Veterans Administration nurse or someone like that with them because they're usually only one person on that mission until they get to Washington. Then they're joined by all the rest of them who are terminally ill, and they have all their own nurses on board because we cannot dispense medicine on this. So the nurses are there to do what? Make sure you did your water, make sure you got your pills, make sure you're all cleaned up after your lunch. By the way, do you want more water? Did you take your pill? I'll wipe down the bus, get off the bus, my gosh, back on. How about some candy? How about some lunch? How about whatever? That's what those nurses are trained to do, is to make sure the veteran is taken care of. Again, this is all about the veterans. It is not about the guardians. As we say at our guardians meeting, look, there's 45 veterans going down and 45 guardians going with them. Every one of those 45 veterans had better return. We can lose 20, 30 guardians, but we cannot lose those veterans. And there's a reason we can't lose them. First of all, we haven't said our thank you for their service. But secondly, there's a history book in each and every one of these veterans that's coming back. And I want to hear the history, believe me, because some of these men and women have not talked about the war that they did so much for us in until they were able to sit down at that dinner on Saturday night. And there's another guy who was in the 8th Battalion, 8th Tank Armored Division. 8th. Second was big time, first was big time, 3rd Armor was with Patton. Alice actually taught pilots how to fly in a Link trainer. But she never got the thank you because she came home and she went to work on Monday morning. She just never had someone to say, thanks very much for your service. We really appreciate it. The veterans, once we figure out the medical situation, we build a team around that. There are times when we have to take a Korean War veteran who's maybe not quite as bad, but he's still bad in medical shape, so we'll put him on one of those missions also. All the buses have lifts on them, so we can make sure we take people who are confined to a wheelchair. Each one of the veterans must have a wheelchair, so each one gets one. And what we'll do is we'll take them to Washington, make sure they're on the bus. The guardian has to get all the wheelchairs up and out and everything else, count them to make sure everything is all taken care of for the veterans. This is strictly about saying thank you. All right, that's about all I wanted to say. Is there any questions that I can answer for anyone here? Yes, sir.
When was that started and by who?
Good point. The history of Honor Flight started in 2005, just as the monument went up in Washington. It was started out in Ohio by a guy who was a retired military man who actually worked in a VA, and he was asking some of his patients, have you gone down to your monument yet? And he said, no, I can't. I don't have the money. I don't have the way to get down there. I don't. And he said, the heck with that. So he got 6 of his friends who had pilot's licenses, and they took the first 6 people down in 2005. Okay, they were the first veterans. The only rule is with Honor Flight, the veterans pay nothing. At the bar there, they can't buy a drink. Coffee, can't buy it, nothing. They cannot spend a dime because they've already paid their dues. In 2008, the Rochester hub was founded mainly by Tom Hope, who you saw here, and his son, Vince Hope. They were the ones who got the thing rolling. It's a big kind of a joke where all of a sudden Vince, who's a fireball and a half of a guy, who said, okay, look, I think I got 12, 15 guys, let's go. And everybody's saying, where are we going to get the money? Who the heck has the money? He says, don't worry, book the plane, book it, whatever you have to do, book. So that's how it started in 2008. And as you can see, over 1,495 veterans have been taken down there through the generosity of the Rochester community. We'll take any veteran. And again, we just love to do this. This is basically our 5th, 6th year, whatever, in Rochester. And we look forward to the Korean War veterans next fall, if we possibly can. Now, you had a question also, sir.
I wondered if that DVD was for sale.
Yes, it is. Yes. There is. We asked for a donation of $100 for it. But see me out in the thing there, because I don't have any with you. I'll have to take your name and all, okay, if need be. This DVD, as I said, is every kind of award you can imagine it has been awarded. This kid is just blown away. He's trying to make a sequel for the Korean War veterans and to update this, because this is showing you 650. We're over 1,400. We'll be 1,500 by the end of this coming year. Yes, anyone else who might have a question?
I got a question as far as how you go about selecting the people on the list.
On the veterans list, first come, first serve is mainly the way we do that. The triage team goes through, though, and they assess the medical condition of each veteran. If it sounds like he's going to need a little extra care, we want to try and get him first, because we don't want him to slip away from us before he can get onto a mission. So that's the triage team who says, okay, you're going, okay, but you signed up, but you're in health, you're good health, you're going to go back on this mission. So it's a juggling situation. We cannot promise any date of when you're going to go. And the reason is because 1,400 a day go on to their final post of World War II veterans alone. That's why sometimes, because of illness, because they're down in Florida, they have to get back into Rochester, etc. They aren't here for when that mission goes off. We can't guarantee the date of the mission. It's you're on, and you only have usually about a month's time as to when they're going to go on. Okay? That's basically the parameters.
How often does a mission go?
Good question. We do 6 missions in Rochester. We do 3 in the spring. If you go to our website, honorflight.rochester.org, honorflightrochester.org, you'll see the dates of those missions. There are other hubs who are like Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, Chicago, whichever ones. Generally what they'll try and do is 2 missions a year. And what they'll do is they'll book the whole plane, which is about 100 veterans, and they'll go down with 100 veterans twice a year. We felt, no, we have a good supply here, not supply, excuse me, that's not the way to term a veteran, but we have a good group of veterans where we need more than just 2 missions a year. We need a lot of them, and the community support for this, it costs us about $35,000 for one of these missions, and it's all donations from the community. And by the way, veterans, don't get your wallets out, you can't pay. So it's been the community that's been driving the success of Honor Flight. The 6 that we do, 45 to 47 veterans, depending on the health, again, it's because of what the buses are and how they are configured, is how many we can take at a time. As we get into the Korean War veterans, maybe their health will be such that we do not need as many lifts or something like that. We might be able to take 48 and maybe a few more. A lot of what is the number is determined by Southwest now. It used to be AirTran. They'll say, here, you got your 45 veterans tickets, that's it. The veteran that we did take down who was terminally ill, usually Southwest takes care of that ticket for us. Anyone who's terminally ill, they'll take care of that ticket. The National took care of all the other arrangements for him, the hotel, food, bus, etc. But we're just the people who got him to the airport. There was a lot of the Patriot Guards there when he came home. Chapter 20 was there. We had a lot of people there. A lot of the news people were there just to say thank you for your service, Warrant Officer. That was it. Any other questions that I can answer? Yes?
I've read something about one city where the pilot was volunteer and the plane was volunteer.
Yes, that was
Southwest.
No, that was in the very beginning.
Oh.
That was only in the very beginning out in Ohio. They volunteered all that money that it ever cost them to land that plane, fuel it up, whatever it was, that was taken care of by the guy who founded Honor Flight. There's over 120 hubs right now throughout the country, but that was the first one in Ohio that they actually donated their private planes. Now everybody goes commercial because there's so many of us that are going at a time. There will be in Baltimore, when I was down there the last time, they called it the Super Bowl Sunday or Saturday of Honor Flight. There was 8 missions coming in throughout the country. We got in very early and we were able to get to all the monuments early before the real mob got there. Someone once asked me about the restrooms on a mission. Don't worry about that. We have all that covered. There's restrooms at each one of the stops that we make. We take more than enough time to make sure those veterans can get there and back. Where there is a men's room head on each one of the buses also. We kind of discourage that because it's rocking around quite a bit, but if they want to use it, that's fine. We just tell the bus driver someone's in the head. Don't worry about it. Conditions that they have, let's get them on the mission, then we'll take them off if we have to. Let's say, yes, you're going, and then we'll assess how good they are or how bad they are. Any other questions? Yes?
Were there any groups affected by the government shutdown?
Yes. Yes.
Did they get to see the mine?
The question is about the sequestra. Were there honor flight groups that were affected? Yes, there were. The lone terminally ill gentleman was down there the week just before they shut down. He was not affected, and none of the honor flight missions going in were affected. On that Monday, though, there were honor flight missions going in, and on Wednesday. And what they did was they got to the barricade, especially at World War II. Now, I don't understand why in the heck the government has enough money to shut down, putting barricades all around open air monuments dedicated to men and women who made this country what it is, and they actually said, just remove the barricade, let your veterans go in, the honor flight people go in from whatever hub they were on, and then make sure those were put back. And the civilian went up, I want to get in. I'm sorry, sir, the park ranger says you can't. But what, they're World War II veterans. Okay, most of the time that's what happened. The only time we found out there was a problem was when the politicians were there and they wanted to get their names on a TV or something like that. That's the only problems we ever had. Other than that, move the barricade, let the World War II guys go in, boom, that was it. Arlington was not closed, by the way. That's a one that was not closed. They could go up there at any time we wanted to. There was barricades all around Marine Iwo Jima, though, which they had to move and so we could get our pictures in there. Okay, I would like to introduce one man who's been at almost every single homecoming. It's incredible how many times this guy has been there. He's missed maybe one or two. His daughter graduated from a course, or his granddaughter, and he had to go out to the graduation. And I can't understand why, but his daughter's a colonel in the service, so, and his son's a captain, so he had to go. General Rappel, would you mind just standing for a second? General Rappel has been there every single one. Now, just for you Korean War veterans, we got to get those applications in because first come, first serve. General Rappels was the first one to come through and he will go first. And I want to ask, Rose, what was your favorite part of your mission down to Washington on Honor Flight?
Everything.
I thought you were going to say the men.
Yeah, only 2 women on that.
I know.
Another one. I just couldn't get over all the stuff that was happening. It was so wonderful. And then getting down to Washington and being able to see all those different, unbelievable. But the people that were there to greet us, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people greeting young people, old people. I have a sign back home and says, "Thank you, Rose," and it was done by young school kids. A great big sign. I keep it at home. It was just, I want to go again, but he won't.
Henry in the back, real quick, what was your favorite part of your trip down to Washington?
Well, the trip itself was great. Yeah, I enjoyed every minute of it.
Great.
Good. Henry was served in the Pacific Theater in the United States Army. And how about you? What was your favorite part of Mission 14?
I think probably the camaraderie of our group as we shared stories constantly. But of course, the World War II monument itself is just awe-inspiring if you haven't been down to see it.
And real quickly, on the World War II monument, that started to be quote-unquote erected in 2000. Because of the controversy of where it was going to go on the mall, it was almost 4 years before they broke ground. The controversy was from how they were laying it. They had the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Monument, and here was the mall going through here. And originally they wanted it raised a little bit. Well, people said, come on, this is the National Mall, you're blocking the view, and this, that, and the other thing. There was a lot of roadblocks put in for that monument to be built. So what they did is they actually sunk it. And that's where you see the water coming in for the Pacific and the Atlantic. And they just a spectacular job on that monument. It's just fabulous to see it. And of course, I don't know if any of you have seen the Korean War monument. Each one of those statues is about 8 feet tall, and it's of a platoon going through the paddies of Korea. It'll remind Dick of the Vietnam days also, because they really have that 1,000-yard stare. The rifles are, it's just an impeccable, well, it's eerie to me when I see Korea. But just to see those monuments with the other veterans, it's the camaraderie and the bonding that they get of an honor flight. They've gone down there maybe 2 or 3 other times to see World War II. It's not the same. It's not the same when you're with people that have gone on D-Day with you or something of that nature. There's a gentleman, who was the guy, I'm not sure if he's here, there's a guy who landed on D-Day in the room there earlier. He was at Omaha Beach, correction, he was at Utah Beach. He was a Red Dog mission on Utah with the 4th Division, 4th Infantry. Any other questions? No? I want to thank you very, very much, and on behalf of all of us for Honor Flight, the community has supported us just incredible. We don't know where the donations come from, other than the school kids raising cans and monies for can drives or Boy Scout drives, church drives. We just don't understand where it comes from. But just keep it coming, because we still have a lot of veterans to go. We have still about 49 veterans from World War II signed up. We're looking for more of them to fill that 2nd and 3rd plane. Korean War veterans, 300 applications. It's swelling even more as we talk. We know that they're getting a lot more applications in for them. So please, thanks for your support in the past, but we really, really want to try and get those names of World War II guys and women and Korean veterans signed up as quickly as possible. Thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it.